Hi everyone, welcome to London. For those of you who are friends who've come from far away, it's great to follow Richard. He is one of the best guys I know in the industry. His museum down there in Bovington in Dorset, if you've got any time, is the Tank Museum. It is totally awesome. You're going to go check it out. It's one of the best museums in Britain, and I would argue, the world. Today, you guys have seen a tank in Trafalgar Square. It's a very special moment for me, a special moment for all of us. Trafalgar Square, for those who don't know, is the heart of our national life. It's where we come together to party, it's where we come together to protest, it's where we come together to mourn and celebrate and commemorate. And today we're commemorating one of the most important British innovations in our history, the birth of the tank, its arrival on the battlefield in 1916. They went on, of course, to dominate warfare in the 20th century. They helped to win the war in 1918. They helped to smash through the German lines, particularly the Battle of Amiens, and after that as well. They then go on to become, obviously, a decisive arm in World War II, the great tank battles that you all know about, that tens of millions of people play in World War Tanks, the great tank battles of World War II. And let's not forget, of course, the tank battles of the Cold War, the Golan Heights, the Middle East. And tanks, I think, come to symbolize warfare in the 20th century. Tanks, the expression, get your tanks off my lawn. Tanks on people's, tanks in coup d'etat, tanks in Prague, tanks in Hungary, tanks taking Saigon at the end of the Vietnam War. They are symbols of warfare itself. So it's a hugely important anniversary and it's recognized as important by the tens of millions of people around the world that play the games. Tanks were popular from the beginning. The British public went nuts about tanks. People speculated what they looked like. They heard that these things existed. They didn't know what they looked like. There was all sorts of crazy cartoons in the papers, people speculating they had legs like a spider. First photographs came out in November 1916, and then a movie, a film, the most popular film in British history, more popular than Star Wars and Return of the Jedi in terms of box office, was the film Battle of the Ancre in early 1917, and the advance of the tanks. And audiences cheered and laughed when the tanks were seen on screen, the first time they'd seen them. It was hugely popular, and the Brits realised they were onto a winner. Tanks could be used to generate support for the war effort, boost morale, and generate money as well. And this is why the tank in Trafalgar Square was very important, because they sold these out the back of them. They parked a tank in Trafalgar Square in 1917, they recreated their battlefield, and the British public flocked to them. And they looked at the tank, they clambered on it, they talked to the guys that served the tanks, but most importantly, they spent money and bought war bonds and donated money, literally using the tanks sometimes as a piggy bank. Tanks then went out to towns and cities all around the UK. Here's one in Aberdeen. Each town in the UK would fall over itself, try and donate more money than the next town. We've got some big numbers here. 14 million from Glasgow, £3 million in Newcastle, 2 million in Swansea, 2 million in West Hartlepool. It's a very tiny town. That equals something like sort of £40, over £40 for every single man, woman and child in that small city. So tanks played a big part in winning the war for Britain, for raising money, for keeping the home front alive and well. Then after the war, something interesting happened as well. Towns, we had a lot of tanks left over. They were, like any new bits of innovation, they were almost immediately obsolete. So they weren't much used to the army in the 1920s, and they were given to towns. 265 tanks went out to towns and cities and villages across the UK. Sadly, only one of those is left today in Kent. Tragic. They were chopped up for scrap. They were removed to make shopping centres. Can you believe it? One was even taken apart by two men using blowtorches who didn't realise there was still fuel left in it, and it blew up and destroyed a big chunk of the town. Serves them right, really, sort of. Bad to say that. And lots of them were scrapped, obviously for their parts and for the metal during World War II. But fear not, everybody, fear not, because wargaming has hooked up with the Tank Museum, has hooked up with a company I'm involved in, Ballista Digital, and we have released a new app that will allow people to put those tanks back where they belong, at the heart of British life. We've got an app called Tank 100. It's commemorating the 100th anniversary, of course. It's augmented and virtual reality, and it gives anyone who wants to download it, anyone in the world, particularly here in Britain, because you can go and match it up, to see what those tanks actually look like in the positions that they would have been in. You can go and look. Effectively, we've created digital replicas all around the UK. So the World of Tanks team have gone to extraordinary lengths to find out exactly where these tanks were. They haven't just used Google. I mean, they actually went to places. It's quite scary. I mean, regions in the UK, strange places without printed objects. And they walked the streets. They did the hard yards, and they worked out exactly where these tanks would have been. And if you go on to Hunt the Tank mode in our app, you too can go and hunt down the tank, find out where it would have been. It's like Pokemon Go for people with an IQ higher than 75. It's obviously available on Android and iOS, obviously on tablets, obviously on phones. It's the whole package, and it's been fantastic working with World of Tanks on this as well. You can actually, there's 360 technology. You can visualize the inside of a tank as well. It is the future, I think, of history and communicating history. From my point, I hope you really enjoy this app. From my point of view, I've worked in TV 15 years. I've worked on social media. I've worked in various places. I've written books. And for me, this is absolutely the future of helping people to understand and appreciate their past, to enjoy it, to find it thought-provoking, and to really get to grips with it as never before. It will engage people as never before. We want also to reinforce that link. The First World War was going on in the battlefields in Europe, but actually it was happening here as well. People were getting involved, civilians were getting involved. They weren't just bearing the brunt of the casualties, they weren't just working in the factories, they were supporting the war effort. They were literally pouring their own money into these tanks as they come back from the battlefield. So we want to remind everyone the money made from this drive, the atmosphere that was created here in Britain helped to bring an end to what was the bloodiest and most destructive war in history. Thank you very much, everyone.